Hey everybody, welcome back to the Average Dude YouTube channel. So today I'm going to be installing my wheel spacers on my 2022 Uforce 1000XL. I had asked the guys at my dealership which wheel spacers I needed to put on to make the front and rear wheels square on this unit, and they said 1.5 inches. So I dug around a little bit. I was trying to find some wheel spacers. So my dealership couldn't get any for me for the price that I was looking at online. So I went ahead and I ordered them online. Now, I was having a hard time finding 1.5 inch wheel spacers with a 4-on-110 bolt pattern with a 12 by 1.25 wheel stud. So there's only very few companies that actually make them. And it seemed like there was very few companies that actually sold them. The couple places that I did find them at, there was shipping costs. So now once I got them, I saw that they were Moose Racing wheel spacers. So I went on, I did a quick Google search, Moose Racing, and I put the part number in, which is right here. I'll put it on screen for you. And I found them at multiple different parts sites that sell ATV, UTV parts, and had free shipping. So use this part number if you're going to go ahead and order wheel spacers. And you don't want to pay shipping. All you have to do is a quick Google search. They also have different sizes on those websites. So if you just type in Moose Racing with that part number, it will give you options. Some of the websites will give you options on different size wheel spacers as well. So these are the ones I got. Pretty typical. I mean, it's just a wheel spacer. It has like this hub-centric lip on here. I don't know if it's actually going to fit tightly over the hub in the rear, but we're going to go ahead and give it a shot. So I went back and forth on which wheel spacers I wanted to do. I had seen a couple guys post on Facebook that when they lift them, they put a 2.5 inch in the rear and a 1.5 inch in the front. That would still bring your rear in a 1/2 inch on each side, so 1 inch tighter than in the front. Eventually, that's what I'm going to do. But I figured now, since I'm at stock height, I'm just going to go ahead and put the 1.5s in and go from there. There are a lot of questions around wheel spacers, and there's some people that say, oh, I'm just going to put wheels with a different offset on it so they stick them out further and all that kind of stuff. And that's fine. As long as everything is tight, you really shouldn't have a problem with wheel bearings blowing out on your side-by-side. I did send this out to the dealership because I did have loose wheel bearings on it. At 100 miles when I checked everything over. They tightened them up for me. They got everything torqued where it's supposed to be. And now I feel comfortable running these wheel spacers, on the trails and even 60 miles an hour going down the road. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started putting these on. So that's a 19 millimeter for the factory lug nuts. Here's our wheel spacer. Again, nothing too crazy. Here are the lug nuts that come with the wheel spacer. These are a 17 millimeter. And I use a thin wall impact socket for these. Now, one thing is, you always want to make sure you're using Loctite when you're putting wheel spacers on. However, I see a lot of videos where people are literally dousing their wheel studs or any other bolt with Loctite. You don't need that much. You literally just need a dab of Loctite on each one. And you can see I'm putting them kind of in the middle because obviously there's going to be some protrusion once you put the nut on there. The nut's probably going to sit about right here. So you want to make sure you're actually getting Loctite where the threads are going to be. If you put it all the way here at the tip, as you run it down, if the little bit is going to be sticking out like that, you're not going to be getting Loctite fully on the thread. Just make sure you're not putting too much on here. The reason I'm using blue is because blue is actually meant to come back off red is not. So if you're putting red Loctite on, even this amount, there's a very good possibility that you're going to have to use a torch in order to heat this up to get the nut off if you're trying to take it back off. Or you can risk actually damaging the threads as you're pulling the nut off. When I look at this, you can see there's a lip here on the wheel spacer, but there's no hub-centric ring on the hub itself. So what we're going to have to do is gradually tighten the nuts up, which I'll only have to do 2 in order to get this centered on the hub. So we'll go ahead and get that on there. Always hand thread your nuts onto your studs or any other bolt. You don't want to risk cross threading these or it's going to turn into a much longer job. So I am going to be using my Milwaukee Impact, and as you can see, even with this all the way up, I can move this spacer all around. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get on one of these nuts and I'm going to slowly tighten it down until the wheel spacer touches the hub. Now you can see here, there's a much tighter gap here than there is here. So we need to get this nut tightened, which is right across from the first one, and get that one centered. That way we can go ahead and we can tighten the rest of them up. And by doing that, you can see the gap here is even, top, bottom, left, and right. By doing that, it's going to put, number one, it's going to stop any kind of vibration that we're going to have because the wheels aren't centered. Number two, it's going to put a lot less stress on the wheel studs themselves, having everything centered on here. So usually on a car, you would have some kind of hub-centric ring. So there's actually a hub and the wheel rides on the hub and the lug nuts only hold the wheel onto the wheel hub. In this situation, obviously, like I said, there isn't a hub protruding out or a hub center protruding out from the hub. So we have to rely on the lug nuts and the wheel studs in order to center the wheel. Now, in about 50 miles or so, I'll go ahead and I'll pull the wheels back off just to check to make sure that the lug nuts on the wheel spacers didn't loosen up. Now, we don't want to put any kind of Loctite on these studs because you want to be able to remove the lug nuts from the wheel at any time. So if you get a puncture or something like that, you want to be able to have these removable pretty easily. That way you're not damaging the threads on either the studs or the nuts. Now that I have all my nuts on, when I go ahead and tighten these up, I want to make sure that I do the first one a little bit just so that the wheel is sitting on the wheel spacer. And then the second one, I'll tighten that one up so that I can center the wheel on the lug nuts. As you can see, they sit pretty flush now with the outside of the Uforce 1000 body and the bed, but it's not too far out to where if we get in some rocks or mud or something like that and it starts flinging stuff, we're really at harm of it coming up and hitting the cab or anything like that. So I think the 1.5 inch is pretty good. It definitely looks better for sure. The other thing too is it's probably going to smoothen the ride out a little bit because pushing it out that 1.5 inch on each side is going to create more leverage for the spring and the shock assembly. Also, if you're off-roading and you're going over some unlevel terrain or something like that, you will probably get more articulation out of it as well. So I will be doing a long-term review on this probably once I get to 1,000 miles or so. which I'm at 250 now, so it's like another 750 miles. I'll check the wheel bearings and I'll do all that kind of stuff just to see if I do have any play or if they're wearing out or anything like that. Like I said before, I really don't think that's going to be the case, but we'll just do a check on it anyways, and I'll go ahead and post a video about it when I do. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.